actually a little bit larger versus the one that you get in the Supra, which is 8.8 inches, surprisingly. And then you can see CarPlay works pretty well. It's very quick and snappy. And then going back over here to the actual display, this car does have embedded GPS, which, as you can see, works pretty well. Nissan's been kind of updating this over the years, and it's relatively easy to use. It's easy to navigate through. And then the CarPlay is there. The wireless CarPlay I found worked for the most part pretty well. There were times where it would be a little bit slow to boot up when you first start the car, but a lot of cars are also like that as well. When you put the car into reverse, which you have to do by pushing down on the shifter and going all the way to the right and then back, you can see the camera quality is trash. It literally looks old. It doesn't match the beautifully rendered graphics that you find like on the CarPlay or the rest of the screen. It does have trajectory and parking sensors, but again, really crummy backup camera, and there's no 360 camera, so I'm just not entirely sure why they didn't upgrade the camera resolution there. You can see here you have single zone automatic climate control. It almost looks like a manual, but there's an auto function here. You adjust the temp there, and then you also can adjust the airflow. Over here you can see USB-C, USB-A. There's an area here where you can put your phone, but that's not a that's not a wireless charger. I'm kind of annoyed that it's not, but at least my iPhone 12 Pro Max fits perfectly there. That's to turn on and off the automatic rev matching function. The shifter, as you can see, it has pretty good throws. I like the throws, but the way it goes into the gears can feel a little clunky sometimes. The clutch also is on the heavier side. The engagement points toward the end of the travel. You can see these heated seat controls are ancient, along with the same control here to open up the rear hatch. You have one cup holder here. Push this or slide this back, it reveals another cup holder. This center console, as you can see, is padded. You have a traditional manual cable style handbrake for those of you who want to do those J-turn drifts. Open this up, you can see there's a center console storage area, which isn't very big. My wallet and sunglasses just kind of barely fits in there. The seats, as I mentioned earlier, look great. They also are comfortable on shorter trips, but I took this on a longer drive and I noticed the seats, I was squirming around in them a little bit. The bottom cushion for me wasn't super comfortable, and then to access the seat controls, it's kind of clunky. It's over here on the passenger side, which again is carried over from a lot of other Nissan products. The glove box, you can see, is damped but not lined with felt. It's not the biggest glove box actually, so that's kind of something to keep in mind. The auto dimming rear mirror, you can see, is nice. The view out of the back is good. You have incandescent map lights in here, and then also I noticed the ambient lighting at night, there really isn't any, so you can tell Nissan cut cost in here, but they at least got the essentials right. We have a beautiful display here, a larger display here, new steering wheel, updated seats, but in terms of some of the stuff here, like the door panels and the switchgear, it's pretty evident that this vehicle shares a lot of parts with its predecessor. So here we are back in the brand new 2023 Nissan Z. This one here being the proto spec car. There's only going to be 240 of these built for the US, so it's an even more rare version of the Z. And we're driving the one with the manual transmission. When I first had a chance to drive this car out in Las Vegas, I drove both the manual and automatic. The automatic is obviously going to be the quicker one. It's the 9-speed built by Jatco, but has some similarities with the Mercedes 9-speed as well. That's going to be the one that Nissan claims 0 to 60 is around 4 seconds. The manual is going to be a little bit harder to launch. It does come with launch control. They've basically taken the same 6-speed manual from the previous generation and upgraded the clutch. It's now an Exity high-performance clutch. It's got a carbon fiber reinforced drive shaft. For the first and the second gear especially is going to be important to have that upgrade. And overall, it feels pretty similar to the last Z that I drove. It actually has kind of a little bit of a crude, truckish, unrefined feel. And for those of you who like the old Z, you're probably going to really enjoy that. The manual does include launch control, but it's a matter of basically just putting the clutch in, flooring the accelerator. It holds the revs at around 4,000 RPM, and then you just dump the clutch. You have to kind of feather the clutch. You have to get the launch right, and this is a rear-wheel drive vehicle. It's got a limited slip differential. Let's go ahead and see what we can get here. Now, I'm not the best shifter. I'm going to go ahead and admit that. I'm an intermediate shifter, but let's just see what I can get here. I'm going to leave the traction control on. Let's just see here. Launch control. Now it does hit 60 in second gear, which is nice, and I got 4.87 seconds there, which honestly isn't bad. This vehicle does have no lift shift, which I tried from first to second, but then the traction control, I could feel it cutting power slightly. It almost has like a slight hesitation a slight delay, but I believe it's the traction control providing power. Now, I don't necessarily want to turn off the traction control because I am on public roads, so I don't want to get this vehicle too sideways, but I have to say, the manual surprisingly is not that difficult to launch. It's just difficult trying to get a consistent number with this manual transmission. That was better. All right, so I turned off the traction control there, and then stupidly I forgot to actually turn on my 0 to 60 timer. So we'll see if we can get another launch in there, but that was better because I noticed when I didn't have that on, I didn't cut power. When I went from first to second, I did the no left shift, it didn't actually cut power. So this could probably get it closer to the 4.5 second range. I think Road and Track or Car and Driver did 4.3 with the manual. That was their best time that they got, which honestly is going to require, you know, this like a really good surface, great weather condition, somebody who's really good at shifting. I'm, like I said, intermediate. I'm not I'm not an expert shifter, but I can shift, obviously. But overall, the Z still has a very, very fun, like typical Z feel. The thing is about this car is it's built on the same FM platform that dates back to like 2003. So in a digital world, this is an analog car. So for those of you who think like, oh my God, I hate all these new cars. They're so digital. They don't drive. They just drive themselves. They're electric. This is a middle finger to all of those digital cars because it is so visceral. It's so mechanical. It's even like loud in here. That's the thing is like sports cars, even like modern sports cars, you drive like a Cayman or a 911 and they actually still feel like sports cars, but they've also gotten way more refined. This, obviously, Nissan has done what they can with this platform to make it feel a little bit more refined. But I also get a sense that I'm driving something that's older, that's a little bit more crude, and that's, hey, if you like that, you're going to really appreciate something like this.
Track is clear to the left. Get on it.
Limited slip diff really tries its best to put the power down, and it is fun. I have to say, this car still obviously is going to put a smile on your face. The biggest competitor, though, is the Toyota Supra. And I'll talk about the comparisons between the Supra with the manual and the automatic. I've had a chance to drive both vehicles, obviously. Not back to back, but I have had a chance to drive both. And let me tell you, the Z is still really good. It just doesn't feel quite as good as the Supra. But let's go ahead and see. We have the traction control still off here. Let's go and see what I can get. Launch control. 4.4 seconds there, so wow, that was better. So yes, turn off the traction control in this car, dump the clutch or use the launch control, dump the clutch. 4.4 seconds is very possible, and that's good. I'm going to take that number. It's about a half a second slower than the automatic. The best that I got in the automatic, I think, was 3.9 or 4 seconds, so just kind of keep that in mind. It's going to require you some patience and some practice to get the launch right, but get it right. That's awesome. Yeah, so when I finally stopped worrying about the 0 to 60 time, this is where this car, it doesn't even matter because of just the feel. Manual transmission is a nice shifting transmission, just a little bit crude at times, but hey, that's part of the character. The steering is light, but also quick. Doesn't really translate much in terms of feedback. The chassis of this car definitely feels old still. I mean, I can tell Nissan has updated what they can. It's actually, in terms of the suspension is the same. They've updated the shocks and adjusted the tuning. But man, that engine, you feel the turbos kick in this thing. It's got some pretty noticeable turbo lag. But as soon as it kind of gets into the boost, this thing feels relentless. It just keeps wanting to pull. And it sounds good. You know, this Z has a nice sound. It has that typical Nissan noise. Actually, it almost reminds me of a VQ, but this is the VR30 DDT motor. And it's interesting how it still sounds like a VQ, especially when you get the revs up. It's just kind of like, oh my God, I can see the enthusiast community going nuts for this car because the boost potential, the tuning potential is just there. And that's kind of the beauty about the new Z is it feels like a tuner's wet dream, this car. But now it finally feels modern. I mean, we have an interior that's been redesigned. Visibility in this car is also good. I can see out of the front, the side, the back. This is better visibility than the Supra. And in terms of the ride quality, the ride is borderline like too firm at times. It's weird because on a smooth surface like this, the ride feels good. But then like I took it out on the highway, I was on a 2-hour drive in this car, and I noticed that the ride was a little firm on rougher surfaces. But then like the seats also, they are comfortable, but they also get a little, I found myself squirming a lot because after like an hour, they were a little uncomfortable for me. So try the seats out for yourself, see if you like the seats and, you know, for your actual body type. But in terms of just day-to-day driving, there's no drive modes for the manual. The automatic has like standard and sport, but this model here, you just kind of drive it. You don't, there's no adjustments really needed other than turning the traction control. This car does have the active rev matching, which, as you can hear, rev matches for you on your downshifts, which you can turn off via a button over here. The clutch in this car also is, I'd say, medium in terms of its heft, or in terms of its feel as well. It engages right toward the end of the travel. I didn't find myself stalling this car very often, which is good.
Ready to begin your motorsport journey?
But I don't like the feel of the shifter. I much prefer the shifter actually in the new Toyota Supra. God, this thing, it loves to get sideways a little too. That's what's really nice. Now I do want to just test it out because I noticed there was something here that kind of annoyed me, which was the lag. But let's go ahead and turn off the nannies again.
Shoulders, narrower hips, equipped, 1 of 2, button. A button select, left bumper previous group, right bumper
4.8 there. So again, that was going slightly uphill there. But I'll take the 4.4. That was my quickest time, and I'm happy with that. That's actually 0.4 seconds faster versus what I got when I was out in Vegas. So should you buy the Z with a manual or an automatic? I don't know. I'd have to drive the automatic back to back, but right now the automatic has a stop sale. The manual though, this is fun. This is refreshing in a world full of electric vehicles and SUVs. This mechanical, visceral drive takes me back in time. It makes me feel like a kid again. Now, earlier this year, when I first had an opportunity to drive the new Z out in Las Vegas, I was expecting to like this car, and I did. But after spending a full week with this proto-spec model, I have to say, between the Z and the new GR Supra, we live in a world where you can still buy a very fast, very mechanical, visceral, analog-type sports car, but the Z definitely feels a little bit more analog versus the Supra, especially when you guys go for the manual transmission. It has that kind of truckish, clunky feel that all the Zs are known for, which some of you may find that to be a benefit because it's very charismatic. The styling of this car attracts attention everywhere. Just like the GR Supra, which also attracts a lot of stares, the Z does the same thing. Enthusiasts everywhere will break their necks to look at this car, especially if you have it in this yellow color, which really helps it stand out even more. In terms of the driving dynamics, the Z just doesn't quite have the same sporty looks on the outside that match its driving feel. I mean, it's still a fun to drive car. However, you notice that the chassis still feels a little bit old. The suspension definitely has a less stiff, less sporty feel versus the GR Supra, and the transmission, along with the engine, that has a little bit of turbo lag. It's all for a very mechanical feel. It has a lot of drama, and that's definitely a good thing. But again, you can also drive other fast cars, and there are a lot of fast cars out there, especially with these electrics. I mean, I got 0 to 60 in 4.4 seconds, which is quick, but it is going to be a little depressing when somebody in their Tesla Model 3 or a BMW i4 or even a Ford Mustang Mach-E or a Tesla Model Y pulls up next to you and smokes you at the light, because nowadays electric vehicles just are putting a lot of gas cars to shame. But again, the fact that Nissan decided to redesign the Z, give us a twin turbo V6, give us a manual transmission, give us a car that feels very analog in a digital world, really is just a win-win. And I really hope that sales do well for this car because I want something like this to continue. I also want Nissan to continue the Z line further with a Nismo version. Would love to see them do closer to 500 horsepower. They did mention that this platform was not designed to accommodate a convertible. The convertible apparently didn't sell very well either. I would love to see them do a convertible version of this car, but really I think what a lot of enthusiasts are looking for next is the Nismo. So if you are interested in the new Z, make sure you go ahead and put this at the very top of your list. You really can't go wrong between the GR Supra and the Z. For the fact that you can get this car for around $50,000 and give you 400 horsepower is just a win-win in general for a lot of enthusiasts. Now, speaking of which, I mentioned earlier the price. This car starts at $39,900 for the base Sport. That does not include, however, a limited slip differential or the upgraded brakes and a lot of the performance goodies. You're gonna wanna spend at least 10 grand for the performance trim, so you're looking at a price around $49,900. Now, this proto spec version is around $3,000 more on top of that, but again, it's a rare car. There's only 240 that are going to be made. As tested, my tester with destination came into around $56,000, which puts it as in the same price realm as the GR Supra. I will say the Supra is around $3,000 to $4,000 more expensive, and remember the Supra comes standard with a 4-cylinder. This comes with a twin-turbo V6, so there's a lot of horsepower per dollar here. That's a lot of value that's built in, and that's kind of what the Z nameplate has always been known. Just keep in mind that trying to get one of these is tough right now with all the supply chain issues. I heard that one dealer apparently in the US was charging like a 70 grand markup. So at $56,000, this is definitely a great deal. If you're gonna pay over $100,000 for it, hey, if you can't afford it, that's more power to you. But just keep in mind, trying to get one of these is definitely going to be a tough proposition. But with all that said, I hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the brand new 2023 Nissan Z. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.
This is your time to learn the track layout and how your car
Roughly
handles.
4 years ago, Toyota really put the compact SUV segment on notice when they introduced the all-new 5th generation RAV4. Now, this was a huge success for Toyota because it offered an enticing blend of capability, value, practicality, reliability, and of course, efficiency. Now, of course, since then, Toyota's main rivals have been fully redesigned or heavily revised, which is why Toyota introduced a fully revised RAV4 back in 2022. Now, for 2023, Toyota is continuing to make improvements to the RAV4, more specifically introducing a new trim level and upgrading the infotainment system. This model here is the 2023 RAV4 Woodland Edition. It's the first time that we're seeing Toyota combine their hybrid efficiency and power with more off-road capability from the TRD off-road model. So the big question I would answer, if you guys have always had your eye on a RAV4, but you wanted the hybrid, but you wanted more capability to go with your active lifestyle, how does the all-new 2023 RAV4 Woodland Edition stack up? Stay tuned to find out.
Bonus. Complete a lap in 1:16.04 or faster. Press Y button to rewind.
Now, under the hood of the 2023 RAV4 Woodland Edition, this is a unique model because up until now, you could never combine the capabilities or the extra capabilities of the Adventure or TRD off-road grade with the hybrid powertrain. Remember, Toyota continues to offer a choice of 3 different powertrains on the RAV4. This one here sits squarely in the middle. Now, you guys should be pretty familiar with this powertrain. Toyota has been using it in several different products, including larger ones like the Toyota Sienna or the Toyota Highlander, but this marries a 2.5-liter dynamic force gasoline direct injection 4-cylinder that makes like 176 horsepower on its own, with 2 electric motors up front and a single third electric motor at the back, giving this vehicle all-wheel drive. Combined output is unchanged at 219 horsepower. Toyota does not rate the torque figure, but the 4-cylinder on its own makes around 163 pound-feet of torque. It all goes out through an eCVT, and like I said earlier, all-wheel drive is standard on all the hybrid versions, which is definitely a nice surprise. Fuel economy does go down with the Woodland Edition because of those all-terrain tires. This is still rated to get 38 in the city, 35 on the highway, 37 combined. That's a 3 mpg drop versus all of the other hybrid versions. Surprisingly, this model here is not rated to tow. Other hybrid models are rated to tow up to 1,750 pounds, and as this one sits, it weighs in at around 3,775 pounds. Toyota does not claim a 0-60 performance, but we've got our testing equipment. We got 6.9 in an XSE. We'll see what we can get in this model when we get it out on the road. Now, closing the hood, let's go ahead and talk about the exterior styling of the Woodland Edition. Now, Toyota offers several different trims to choose from. There's practically a flavor for every different buyer in the RAV4 pool. And this model here technically starts life as an XLE grade. You can see at the front fascia, it's got the revised look here at the front. There is a blue accented Toyota logo here to show that this is a hybrid. This color is called Calvary Blue. It is a really interesting bright blue that goes well with the body lines of this vehicle. You can see the front fascia has kind of a gray, black or gray plastic front fascia, so it's going to be durable. And then you can see here, all the Woodlands come standard with full LED headlights. Technically, all RAVs do for 2022, but you have an LED low and high beam, you have incandescent turn signals, and then you have an LED daytime running light, which is technically not this area here. This is actually the LED daytime running light. If you go for the upper trims, it becomes this area here for the running light. The Woodland does add fog lights. You can't get this on the XLE. but you can see it does include LED fog lights. And then down here you can see, I kind of wish Toyota gave it more of a tougher looking front end with like a front skid plate look. But again, this model here is technically not going to be the full-on off-road version like a TRD off-road, but moving around the sides, you can really see that this definitely looks like a little bit more outdoorsy and rugged versus your typical hybrid version. In the past, you could only get a sport-oriented hybrid or a more comfort, luxury-oriented model. So this is trying to be a different look for the RAV4 hybrid. Now, in terms of its dimensions, 180.8 inches in overall length, 105-inch long wheelbase. So those haven't changed. What did change, obviously, are these wheels. These wheels are the TRD Flowform bronze finish 19-inch wheel. You can see here, or I'm sorry, 18-inch wheel. These are essentially the same wheel that you get on the TRD off-road, but they are finished in a bronze color. You also get the same Falcon Wild Peak all-terrain tires. They're wrapped in a 225/60 R18 rubber. These wheels are going to be great for giving you better traction when you're driving the vehicle off-road. The suspension tuning actually just comes from the LE and the XLE grade. So previously we thought Toyota would put the suspension shocks and such from the TRD off-road, which would increase the ground clearance to 8.6 inches, but this model here on their website lists at 8.1 inches, which is still pretty good, but I'm surprised that they didn't want to give us a little bit more additional ground clearance to give it better capability. Now you can see here, the wheel arch trim is that same non-painted gray plastic. You have integrated turn signal mirrors, not power folding. They are body colored. You cannot get a sunroof, sadly, on the Woodland Edition, but you do get this more high profile rear or roof rails with the crossbars. So that's something that, for those of you who want to put a roof tent on the roof, that's going to be nice. You can also see here, there's a black all-wheel drive badge here that's included with the Woodland Edition. And then looking at the back here, I really love the design of the RAV4. I think this has aged pretty well. It's kind of got some design cues from their trucks, like a 4Runner. It almost looks like a mini 4Runner, so that's pretty much aged pretty well for me. Now, in terms of the rear, you can see the rear looks like every other XLE grade. However, there are a couple of differences. You can see the black emblems are carried over into the back. This is a body-colored rail or accent here that connects the two taillight modules together. There are black badges here for the Toyota RAV4 and the hybrid badge, and then there's a Woodland sticker here that again shows that this is the special edition model, the more off-road oriented hybrid. Taillights are LED, but the turn signal and reverse light you can see is incandescent. And then underneath here in the rear tag lights, those surprisingly are LED, which is nice. Down here you can also see all RAV4s include a dual accented exhaust, and you can see on the Woodland they are black tinted chrome, which is definitely nice. It gives the RAV4 a more sporty, premium look, so I really like how Toyota, made the RAV4 Woodland look pretty nice, especially in this Calvary blue. Now, opening up the trunk, this is an area that left me disappointed because you cannot get a power liftgate on the Woodland Edition. You can on the XLE as part of like a convenience package, but it's not available on the Woodland. This is basically a trim. You pick the color, you can pick the accessories, but there are no option packages to upgrade it, which would be nice. Cargo area is also unchanged. You get 37 cubic feet of space back here, like 37.8. If you fold down the second row, it expands it out to 69 cubic feet. There is a household 100-volt outlet back here, which Toyota included with the Woodland models to give you, again, access to power plugs if you're planning to go camping with this vehicle. And then you can see here you have a unique rear cargo mat along with the floor mats that has the Woodland Edition graphics, which is nice. And then if you look underneath here, you can see Toyota does give you a temporary spare tire with a jack, but again, most off-roaders would probably prefer that this have a full-size spare with a matching tire. So sadly, it doesn't give you that, but overall practicality is still pretty good, like all the other trims of the RAV4. So now that we've talked about the exterior of the Woodland Edition, let's go ahead and hop inside the interior, because this is where Toyota did make a couple of changes for 2023. Before we step inside, I want to show you guys the key fob. Now, even though this sits at the bottom end of the totem pole in terms of the trim hierarchy, you can see Toyota does include their remote smart key access system with push button start. You can see here it just has very simple buttons: lock, unlock, and panic. There's no tailgate open function because this vehicle is not available with a power liftgate. But the one thing I did find out from a lot of you guys, this vehicle does have a remote start from the fob. You can obviously access it from your smartphone, but if you just hit the lock button 3 times and push and hold it on the 3rd time,
overtake plus 10 CXP.
You can hear the vehicle start it up. It will turn on the climate control, and if you have heated seats and a heated steering wheel, it will turn it on. Didn't know that feature was there, so again, thank you guys for letting me know about that. That is a pretty nice feature to have, especially if you don't have access to your smartphone. Now, opening up the door, you can see once you open up the door. I hope you guys like a black interior because this black fabric is all the Toyota offers on the Woodland. So you get a choice of 3 different colors, black, white, or Calvary blue with the black fabric interior. No heated seats, but you do get an 8-way power driver's seat with 2-way lumbar, along with manual power passenger seat. No memory seats again. This is based off of the XLE trim. And I have to say, for a model that has a nicer look on the outside, the interior does look fairly basic. I was hoping Toyota would throw in a couple of more colors or just trim features here to give the Woodland a better look on the inside. And when you look at the door panel here, you can see it's very basic looking. The upper part of the door panel here is surprisingly hard touch plastic, which I didn't realize. You have to go for the upper trims to get this soft touch plastic on the upper door panels. It is padded right here where you rest your elbow. And then you can see window controls. They are one touch for all 4, which is nice. And they feel pretty high quality and tactile. Again, no power mirrors, but you do have blind spot monitoring. And then you have the base 6-speaker stereo, which sounds pretty basic. I'm not really a big fan. I'm an audiophile, so again, you guys probably would want the JBL. So you want to step up to the higher trim. You can see the Woodlands include these unique all-weather floor mats, which is pretty similar to the one from the trunk. I like how that is at least standard. But again, if you're an off-road kind of person and you plan to get this vehicle muddy and whatnot, a soft pack seat that is, I guess, resistant to stains and whatnot would be better versus this cloth. So I'm surprised Toyota didn't go with a soft pack material. Getting inside, you can see it has 8.1 inches of ground clearance, so it has a nice, easy step-in height. As I get in and check the door, the door has a relatively solid sounding trunk. This is built on their TNGA architecture. Now starting the vehicle up, you can see the start-stop button is right here where you'd expect it to be. It is blocked by the steering wheel. But when you start the vehicle up, you can see it all looks very familiar. However, Toyota did upgrade the tech. Now, I wish I was showing you guys their newest tech system where you have a fully digital 12-inch display here and the larger 10.5-inch screen over in the center stack. However, because this is pretty low on the trim hierarchy, you do have the smaller systems. Now, previously in the past, the base versions of the RAV had a 4.2-inch screen. They've gotten rid of that, so now you have the 7-inch screen that you got on the higher trims as standard equipment, even on the base versions. You can customize this slightly to be different colors depending on your drive mode, or you can also add an actual analog speedometer, which you can access via going into the menu system here and changing the settings and whatnot. So this system here looks exactly like my old RAV4 Prime from back in 2021, so that is still nice, but you can get a fully digital display on the upper trims, which sadly the small doesn't have. You can see here is the 8-inch infotainment system. It got a 1-inch upgrade versus previously where you had a smaller 7-inch display. This also has their latest Toyota audio multimedia interface where you can see wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto is included. It has over-the-air updates. It just has a much cleaner, more modern appearance to it. What Toyota did get rid of, however, are all the physical hard buttons. So before, you had a volume knob, you had all these different shortcut buttons that were hard buttons on the actual screen. Now they've gotten rid of that. You just have one volume knob here. So some of you may not like that, but again, the screen itself, the interface is very easy to use. I just don't love how small the 8-inch screen looks, especially with the big black bezel. Go for the upper trims and you'll have a 10.5-inch screen with a much thinner bezel, and it just looks a lot better, but you still have just one volume knob here. So some of you may consider this to be an upgrade, which I do, but it's going to take a little bit of getting used to because you got rid of all those hard dedicated buttons, which made it a little bit easier to use at a glance. Now you can see material quality, you can see there's a soft touch injection molded plastic on the dash. You still have a very utilitarian feel to it with these big knobs for the climate control. At least the Woodland still gives you dual zone automatic, which is nice. You have a nice little storage shelf over here, but this is hard touch plastic, some fake aluminum trim splashed throughout, and then the steering wheel you can see, I hate how it's not leather wrapped. Instead it's just urethane wrap, which kind of makes it feel a little bit cheap. The steering wheel itself is a tilt and telescoping with manual adjustments, and then you also have your controls for the Toyota Safety Sense 2.5 and your audio controls, the horn. Ooh, it sounds really puny. So it sounds like they've taken it right out of a Corolla, which I don't love. If you're looking for a heated wheel, you can see a lot of empty buttons over here. It does include automatic headlights still. You can't get a heated wheel in this car, and you can see here empty buttons where you typically would find heated seats, not available again on the Woodland. Down here you can see there's usually a wireless phone charging pad on the high trims, but not on the Woodland. You can see there's a USB charging port. Your drive mode selector is here. You twist it to the left to go to Eco, push back center to go to Normal, twist it to the right to go to Sport. There's also a trail mode here. This is all software when you're driving the vehicle off-road. Then there's also an EV mode when the vehicle has enough charge. It'll allow you to do that. Put the vehicle in reverse. You can see there's the backup camera with trajectory, no parking sensors, no 360 camera. Again, that's on the higher trims. This base model doesn't have it. Silver painted plastic along the center console, cup holders here, padded armrest area, which this is actually a pretty big size. There's 2 USB charging ports in there, USB-Cs. For cloth seats, I don't love cloth, but they are surprisingly comfortable and supportive with an interesting pattern to the actual seat insert. But again, for this trim, Toyota should have, I think, gone with the Softex. It's just more durable. It's easy to clean up. Mud splatters and whatnot. Opening up the glove box, you can see it's damp, and it's not lined with felt, but it's a bin style. It's a relatively good size. No auto-dimming rearview mirror, and like I mentioned earlier, no sunroof. You do have LED map lighting and no heads-up display, along with that standard stereo system. So overall, the interior feels a little more rental car grade-ish in here, so this is kind of my biggest disappointment with the Woodland Edition. So my recommendation, go for an XLE Premium if you want the upgraded features like heated seats or a bigger screen on the higher trims or the JBL sound, because this model here is pretty limited. But let's go ahead and hop into the back seat, because the rear seat of this vehicle is practically unchanged from other hybrids. You can see the RAV4 isn't exactly the most spacious, but it's also pretty usable still. You get around 37.5 inches of legroom, and you can see the rear also comes with the Woodland Edition floor mats, where you have that unique graphic. But getting back here, you can see at 5'7", I have plenty of space. As I get in and shut the door, hard touch plastic materials are carried over. This is padded over here, but like I said earlier, power one touch up down for all 4 windows, which is nice. You have 1 storage pocket, and I'm surprised to see rear seat air vents back here and 2 USB-C charging ports. So that's nice that Toyota included that even on this lower end trim. The seats themselves, they do fold down, or they also offer a slight recline, which is nice. And then you have an armrest that folds down and gives you 2 cup holders if you want to fit 3 across. The floor here is not completely flat, which is going to eat into your space a little bit, but without that sunroof, this does have a lot of headroom. There's LED lighting in the cabin, map lighting in the cabin, which is nice. But overall, the back seat is definitely usable, but it's not the biggest back seat. You'll want to look at competitors like the Kia Sportage or Hyundai Tucson or CR-V if you want more rear seat space. So you guys are pretty familiar with the Toyota